Welcome to Coach Chloe, the Journey of Self Love, episode 12. Last week, we kicked off our new series, How to Hack Your Thoughts, and today is part two. For this series, we have a great lineup of really, really great minds who's going to come on the show and share ways that they hack their thoughts. So, when you're faced with a self defeating thought or a negative thought, what do you do to pull yourself out of it? How do you set yourself up mentally, and how do you set up a mindset where you want to have a positive experience? Tonight, I'm thrilled to have on the show Vickie Laurent, and she's going to tell us what she does to pull herself out of those negative thoughts or those self-defeating thoughts and set herself up for success. So stay right there. We'll be back in a moment. Hello and welcome back. Today, I'm thrilled to have Vickie on the show with us. Vickie Laurent, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Chloe. Happy to be here.
All right, okay, thrilled to have you. So really excited to hear, how you hack your thoughts and what is your hacking methodology. So, on the previous sessions, we talked about the power of self talk. We talked about negative thinking, positive
Hmm.
thinking, and the pros and cons of both. We also talked about silence and the power of silence, when silence is golden or when it's deafening. A really, really robust, exciting conversation. So, today, I'm going to ask you a few questions on how you hack your thoughts.
Sure.
So here's the first question for you.
Okay.
When silence is golden, what are
Hmm.
you saying to yourself?
That's a good one. Uh, Oftentimes I find that I'm a talker, so uh, very rarely is there a lot of silence when I'm, in a group with some friends and some colleagues. But when silence is golden, um, I think in terms of positivity quotient, it's on the rise. Confidence is on the rise. Um, I'm creative. I have tons of ideas. Um, I'm able to innovate, think clearly on my thoughts, you know, logical, practical thinking abound. So I think those are some of the key points for me when silence is golden. I'm able to be calm and meditate. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, because then there's no noise, right?
all right.
So, what does that state sound like, feel like when silence is golden? And you said you have, confidence is on the rise, creativity kicks in, you think more logically, more
Hmm.
practical, you're more calm. Is there something that you maybe say to yourself um, to get into that state?
Good question. I usually start out my days with gratitude,
Hmm.
and usually that will set up the stage, if you will, for um, positive thinking, and it'll usher in more um, moments of joy, moments of peace, moments of confidence.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's the two biggest pieces are having dedicated time to meditate and dedicated time to be grateful and to express gratitude.
Hmm. So that is one way that you get. That's the one way that you hack your
Yeah,
thoughts.
definitely,
Yes.
absolutely.
So
Early in the
it's
morning,
the
first thing to set my day.
Yeah. So you saying you dedicate the first part of your day
That's right.
to gratitude and moments of joy.
Absolutely.
Okay, and for those that are listening out there, that's a great way to kick up the day. Very similar, Vicky, to the way I start my day.
There you
Very, very
go.
yes. I just feel like the tone that you get up with
Mm,
is the tone that you can keep anchoring in throughout the day because the day gets messed up.
absolutely. There's so much unpredictability. There's so many things that happen that you can't, that are unforeseen that you can't plan for. But if you're able to set your intentions for the day, um, you know, as much as you can plan,
Yeah,
but you'll be able to roll with the punches as the
yeah.
day goes on.
So you used a really a word that I'm going to grab onto right now. You said the unpredictability sets in.
Mm, absolutely.
With that unpredictability, the volume of the noise starts to increase,
Sure.
right? Because now this is where all the thinking and everything starts clouding our judgment. And before we know it, we're in a place that we don't want to be in. So, when negative thoughts or any self-defeating thoughts, or when unpredictability and uncertainty and all of this starts to cloud your mind, with
Hmm.
thoughts, how do you get out of that place? How do you tackle?
How do I get out of the?
Yes. How do you hack your thoughts so you get
Okay.
back to setting yourself up for a positive experience?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to fall into a pattern of negative thinking.
Mm,
Um, and part of it is practice,
mhm.
where you're able to notice and recognize those thoughts and those emotions. Sometimes they're
Yes.
physiological
Mhm.
feelings where you feel your heart racing a little bit. You feel like your mind has kind of like racing thoughts. You might feel that um, you have what's called black and white statements
Yeah.
where you're saying things never go right, or this person is always, doing the wrong thing,
Mhm.
or every time I do this, have this discussion with this colleague, it always turns into. So you're having these very extreme thinking,
Mhm.
very uh, catastrophizing almost thoughts.
Yeah. Mm.
And I think, whether it's within the arena of work or family life, it's one of those things that, it can spiral really quickly. And
Mm.
the first step is noticing it. And it takes practice
Mhm.
because you have to be able to identify what that emotion is. Like, am I angry? Am I frustrated? Am I nervous? Am I sad? Um, if you journal, then maybe that might be an opportunity to do that if you have time,
Mhm.
or make time at the end of your day. Um, and then reframe. So I think
Mhm.
that's one of the biggest tools that I've used over the course of my life
Mhm.
that has been extremely valuable when the noise becomes too loud in my thoughts.
Mhm.
And I, you know, the thoughts start to go into that catastrophizing direction, to
Mhm.
pull it back to say, hey, I should really stop and think about this in a different way.
Yeah.
Whether that's using both and type statements, or looking for exceptions, or being really specific to what it is that I'm concerned about, or what it is that might have made me worried, or what it is specifically that has gone wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as you're talking, my mind is just going in circles here, my thoughts, right? And I'm thinking, when the noise becomes too loud, like you're saying, how do you find the silence when that noise is too loud? Because
Mm,
it's noisy. So, and the key word that you said a few times now is by just noticing,
yeah,
noticing.
noticing.
Yeah. So it
I think
means,
noticing is big,
yes.
because you have to be able to identify the lies. It's
Mm.
like, what am I? The thoughts that I'm thinking, are they true? So,
Yes, I
so
love that.
basically, yeah, being able to, once you notice the thought, it's almost like you're challenging the thought, because
Yeah.
you can't, as much as we love our brains and think,
Yeah.
we're so intelligent,
Yeah.
sometimes our brains cannot be trusted.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go into fight or flight
Yeah.
or freeze.
Yeah.
And so we have to be conscious of that. And again, it takes practice. I'm not trying to say I have this all figured out.
Yeah.
Um, but there are definitely mechanisms to help reframe the thinking, to slow the thinking spiral down,
Mm.
um, and to question it. Say,
Mm.
why am I thinking this? Is it true what I'm thinking?
Mm.
What is the likelihood that this is really going to happen?
Mm.
And so play the story out that you're telling yourself to its
Yeah.
end, to say, is this really real what I'm thinking?
Mm.
Um, Taking a deep breath. Again, a lot of this is physiological as well.
Mm.
And so
Yes.
being able to take a deep breath, and, I like the 4-8 rule,
Yeah.
in 4, out 8,
Yeah.
or 2 and 4, however you can do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But that really does help to calm some of the physiological responses to
Mm. Yeah.
the thinking that becomes too loud. The other thing is, sometimes you have to get out of your head and talk to somebody.
Mm.
Find a trusted person, you
Mm.
know. I guess you're my trusted person too, Chloe. You
Yeah.
know,
We've had a lot of conversations.
lots of conversations. Find someone where you can really share in a safe way.
Mm.
And typically, they don't have to be a licensed professional as Chloe if you can't get one. If you can, that's great. We recommend that. But if you find that the loops are not quieting, even with those strategies, find
Mm.
someone to talk to,
Yeah. Yeah.
because sometimes you need someone to kind of pull you back
Yes.
into reality. Yeah.
I love that because when we get into that negative self-talk and we
Yeah.
telling ourselves all these stories, we don't know if they're truth and we believe the lie is a
Yeah.
truth.
Right.
When
The
we
lie
start
becomes the truth.
believing
Yeah.
that, we need someone to challenge that
Right.
belief or that
Right.
assumption. Otherwise, we testing it and we believing the lie.
Right. And
Um,
I find that it's like a defeating cycle, because once you start going into that negative thinking loop and believing, whether it's I'm not good enough, or, let's say it was a presentation that didn't go well, and so it's like,
mm,
oh, this is going to look bad on my next promotion review, or whatever it is.
mm,
I think it's really important to pull back, to say, hey, whatever it is that you use that are truth, like,
mm,
how long have you been doing your role? How many other times have you presented and it turned out really well?
yeah,
How many people have still succeeded even when they've made mistakes?
yeah, yes.
So I think those are the different things that you have to challenge the thinking.
Mm,
And I think it works in the professional setting as well as at home. So
mm, yeah. Vicky, what a great conversation, but we always have great conversations.
yes,
Yeah. So, uh, here's another question.
sure.
Can you think of a time in your life when you couldn't hack your thoughts and it got
Mm.
out of control?
Sure. I think right now I'm speaking from a place of empowerment, right? Where I've had therapists and
Yeah.
counselors and coaches and books and YouTube, to help my journey of, being able to reframe, um, and train my brain.
Mhm.
But I remember years ago, when I graduated from school, I wanted to, get a fellowship, be accepted to fellowship. Super competitive, not that many spots. And, in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, what if I don't get, a fellowship? What will my peers say? And, is it, how will I be perceived? What will the trajectory of my career be? I mean, spirals,
Yeah.
into just, and what really it is it's a defeatist mindset.
Mm.
And it's almost kind of like, years ago when my mom was teaching me how to drive. She said the best way to learn how to drive is keep your eyes on the line on the highway.
Uh-huh.
And I guess if you're on the highway, it's the yellow line on the left. And she said, so long, and when you're making those tight curves, like let's say you're getting off an exit, you're making tight curves, sometimes it's really hard to figure out how to turn the wheel just
Mm,
right. And so keeping your eye right on that line when you're making that curve, you'll make perfect smooth curves. But if you take your eyes off that line, good luck. And so
mm,
I think it's a similar concept, a similar notion where being able to fix your eyes and keep it set on your North Star, um, or what is truth. It's
mm.
like, yeah, at the end of the day, if I didn't get the fellowship, plenty of people have finished with their degree and still been able to get into the industry the pharmaceutical industry where I currently have developed my career. That is a fact. If I didn't do that, there's still other jobs that I could have still had, that were related or unrelated. If I didn't get accepted into this particular program, there were other programs that certainly would have
Mhm.
been available. But I think in that moment, it was that one, and I think being able to open my frame of thinking to say, it, you know, again, going back to that black and white thinking, to
Mm.
say it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray, and let's stay in the gray, when it
Mm.
comes to our brain, because it'll be better for us in the long run.
Yeah, and when you talk about black and white and gray, when we have black or white, we get too attached to whatever
Mm,
that idea or that thought or that assumption is.
right.
It's
Yeah.
easy to get attached to it. When we in
Sure.
the gray, it's a leap of faith. We have to have faith to be in the gray.
Right.
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 You can't really get attached to it because there's like, okay, what if? There's a lot of what if thinking and
Right.
possibilities.
Right.
Even staying in the realm of possibilities, which is the
Mm,
gray, is the safer way to be. And then obviously, there are times when we have to make decisions. But
sure.
I always find that black and white, especially when we're not sure,
Right.
we need to attach ourselves to something to give us some ground to stand on.
Right. Right.
You
It's like
know?
an anchor, having that black and white thinking.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
And as you were talking, I thought to myself, which I thank you for sharing that about, this keeping it, your eye on the line, because if that line is too black or too white, then how do you find the line, and how do you draw a line in the sand? How
Mm,
do you find the line in the gray? How do you find
mm,
the North Star in the gray? Because
mm.
that's when it is tough.
It is.
Yeah, that's
I
when.
think I think with any I think this can apply in any scenario. You have to decide ahead of time before you get to that space where you're in that negative loop or that spiral,
Yeah,
what you believe to be true.
yeah,
You
yes.
have to decide this before you're in that space. So when
Mm,
you're happy, you have to remember, this is why I'm happy. This is why I made the decision. This is what I'm grateful for, if you will.
yes.
And
Yeah.
so when you go down that loop, all you have are those solid truths
Mm,
that will keep you anchored, you
mm,
know,
yeah.
that, my family, if you're fortunate to have, a loving family, like my family loves me, if you have great friends, have a solid relationship base, so like find something that you can anchor yourself
Yes.
before those moments happen, because if you live long enough, you'll come to learn that they will happen.
Yeah.
So
That's it's gonna happen. It's
it is
inevitable.
inevitable. Just live long enough,
Yeah.
and you'll have
So,
those too.
so moving on, um, was there a time where you had positive thoughts,
Hmm.
right? And you're going in a good direction, your positive thoughts, but then you needed to hack that positive thought. Can you think of a time?
Um, I sometimes like to consider myself a creative, um, and so I'll give you an example where I was, doing a complete gut reno of my home,
Yeah.
like top to bottom, and I had so many ideas of how this could go, because we were doing the kitchen, we were doing bathrooms, I mean everything, and at a certain point you have to anchor your resources and
Mm,
time, and what's available to you, in order for you to be able to move forward and make progress.
Mm,
and to measure your progress.
mm,
I think um, sometimes we have so many great ideas, and it's hard for us to be able to put together some type of a strategic plan
mm,
against a timeline, and
mm.
then a key of like what is our objective that this must happen or this we would really like for this to happen. Um, and when you have all these thoughts and you're not able to kind of prioritize the thoughts, or you're not able to put a pros cons, and be able to say, hey, if I can only take this one thing, this is the one that I'm going to go with. I think
Yes.
I think that's the takeaway
Yeah.
um, for me. When you have all these ideas and great plans, like if you want to go into entrepreneurship, or if you have all these ideas for programs and projects at work, like you can't, you really reality you can't do all of them.
Hmm.
But being able to prioritize, you know, SWOT analysis, quickly SWOT, um,
Yeah.
do a SWOT analysis. I think that that's helpful in
Mm.
being able to um, get from the place from ideation to planning and then execution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's finding that one thing. There's 101 ideas.
yeah,
What is the one thing that resonates the
right,
most?
right,
And
yeah,
resonates the most with not what I think others are going to like or what's
mm-hmm.
going to please them, but what resonates most with my value system.
Oh yeah, I think that's
Because if,
huge.
yeah, because if it resonates with my value system, I will always feel connected to it.
Right,
You know,
right,
yeah.
right.
So, Vicky, um, we're coming to the end of our show here.
That was
What
fast.
is something you would like to share with those listening to this podcast on how to hack their thoughts?
I think there's a couple of things, and folks have heard this probably too many times. The first thought is life is short, so do your best to be to live in the moment, live and be present in your moment. There was a quote by Rick Warren where he said, "There are 2 days of the week that strip us of our joy. Every human on earth, there's 2 days of the week that strip us of our joy. And if we were able to manage and rein that in, we'd do much better. And those 2 days are yesterday and tomorrow. Um, so much of our angst and our negative thinking, spiraling, our black and white thinking, so much of our worry and stress and
Mm,
anxiety come from the regret of the past or
mm,
shame from our past and fear for the future.
mm,
And if we're able to just be in the moment and be in today,
mm,
it would serve us so much
mm,
um, more in terms of value and benefit. I think definitely to our minds, to the work that we do,
mm.
um, and to even our overall health. You know,
Yeah.
joy. I think joy is something that is there's never too much joy. I don't think that's a thing. So
Yeah, yeah. And when we started, you talked about gratitude and finding moments of joy.
yeah, for sure.
Really nice way to close that out. Vicky, what a pleasure to have you
Thank
have this
you.
conversation with me and to share your heart and the way you hack your thoughts with the audience. So, everybody out there, life is short. Do your best to live
Do
in
your
the
best.
moment, like you said. And like I always end our shows, your story is changing, and you are the storyteller of your story.
Mhm.
Your thoughts, your story are your thoughts. Your thoughts are your self talk. Who you are becoming are your thoughts. What you tell your brain is what your brain remembers. And here's what really matters: who you are becoming is greater than who you were before this moment. Please go ahead and just share one way you hack your thoughts in the chat. And get ready for another powerful mind hacking conversation with another exciting guest next week. Remember, powerful declarations inside of you are waiting to be manifested. See you next week.